As a busy mom and dairy farmer, I'm always looking for ways to support my family's health as well as my own, and I absolutely love Wonder Cow Colostrum. It's packed with essential nutrients, great for supporting gut health, boosts immunity, and promotes overall wellness. Whether it's for me, my kids, or anyone looking to stay strong and healthy, Wonder Cow is my go-to daily supplement. I've been taking it for a year now, and it is irreplaceable in my daily routine. If you want to experience the amazing benefits of colostrum too, you can use my special code DairyGalVal at checkout for a discount. Give Wonder Cow a try and you will definitely feel the difference. Hey Dairy Hour listeners, if you're enjoying this show, leaving a review is the best way to help us grow and reach more people. Plus, I've got a little thank you for you. Snap a screenshot of your review, message it to me at DairyGalVal, and I will be sure to send some fun Dairy Hour stickers your way. Thanks for supporting the podcast, and I cannot wait to mail you some swag. Welcome to today's episode of the Dairy Hour podcast. I am your host, Val Lavigne, and I am joined today by Jamie Derr. Jamie, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. I'm so excited to chat with you. I've heard really great things about you and can't wait to, dive deeper into your story and hear your thoughts on some different things. So if you want to start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I live in Middletown, Maryland, and I grew up in the town right next to here, Boonesboro. I've been a dairy farmer pretty much my entire life. I am married and have two sons who are 14 and 11. My husband and I run his family's farm, and we started the dairy, and now we have a flower business. So life is full of a lot, but it's wonderful.
It tends to be the going rate. It's always one of those, I feel like you're like, oh, when we get through this chapter of life, things are going to get a little bit easier. They're going to slow down.
Yeah, change.
Yes, when you get done with that chapter and then you're like, but wait, there's more. Let's do this. We're going to have all this free time. Let's do this and this. I completely get that I get that completely. As someone who one little thing ended and I was like, I'm going to homeschool my kids now. Let's do this. So I get it. All the fun things in life. Boys, you said 11 and 14. How is having 11 and 14-year-old boys?
Amazing. I love having a teenage son. It is a lot of fun to see them kind of become their own people, and I really love it. I've loved all the stages, but I think this is my favorite so far. It's very enjoyable.
Good. So are you telling me, well, I guess I have girls that are older, but are you telling me there could be hope of simmering down a little bit and becoming a bit more?
I think it's child by child. I think our older son is the easier one as far as that goes. So we'll see how I feel when I have the other one is 14. And girls might be different. I've been told that girls are different. So
this comes from a side conversation.
We are prepared to be the parent we need to be, right?
Yes, 100%. And this comes from right before I got on this podcast, I had to break up a girl fight in the driveway over cleaning their rooms. So
yeah.
Oh yes, good times. But yeah, it's definitely a different season as the kids get older. And I was very into the infant stage. I loved that. And then they got into the needy toddler stage and I was like, I'm not so sure. And that may have just been the nature of having twins being, at the same stage at the same time. It might have just been a little too overwhelming for me, but I made it through. But now, they do have really great moments, but then sometimes they just get those moods and boy, they're either fighting and trying to rip each other's heads off, or they're thick as thieves, causing all the trouble, in on secrets with one another. And I'm like, oh, what did I get myself into? And then you have little brother who is just doing his own thing and he doesn't care if they're mad at him. He doesn't care what's going on. He just does his thing. And as long as he's farming, he's happy.
Yeah.
That's how that goes. Oh my goodness. So you said you grew up on a dairy farm as well. Do you want to talk about, I'm guessing that your parents had a dairy farm?
Yeah, my parents dairied, and they had between 90 and 100 Holsteins, and they dairied until I was in middle school. And then they sold the dairy herd and transitioned into heifer raising and crop farming. So that's how I got my start in dairy. Actually, was with my mom heifer raising until my husband and I started our dairy. So that was very helpful because we kind of get an opportunity to see how a lot of different dairies are doing it.
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of want to jump back a little bit because I don't think that this is talked about enough. As someone who was a kid, I'm guessing you were out on the farm all the time. And
Mhm.
how much did it affect you or change, your life when you guys did sell the dairy herd?
I think in the moment, it didn't affect me as much as it does now, knowing now that I have my own dairy. I can relate to how my parents felt. In the moment, it was a big deal because it went from dad has to wake up every morning and milk, and mom, is all the time doing stuff with the dairy. And then it's just stopped. And I do remember that heavy feeling of the cows leaving. And that's just such a huge feeling. You grieve that. You grieve your herd leaving, no matter what the situation. We knew it was the right decision. They either needed to expand or change, and where they're located was just growing too much for them to feel like it was appropriate to expand the dairy. So they shifted. And I didn't have that feeling of they're no longer farmers. Luckily, we still had heifers, so we still identified as dairy farmers. But when your herd leaves, you
It's a
grieve.
piece of you, yeah.
Yeah, you grieve. I knew it was big. I think I was 14. Now that I'm older, I have deep talks with my mom about how that affected her and
Yeah,
can identify with that.
it's definitely not for the faint of heart. And it's so tough to see something, as a dairy farmer, something that you've worked your entire life at to see that
Mhm.
transition. And I guess the silver lining in it for you guys was that not every single animal left the farm, that you were able to keep some of that young stock and be able to, continue having animals to depend on and go out and spend time with. So that's a
Mhm.
really good thing. But I know that there's probably a lot of people listening that can resonate with that, just that feeling of loss. And,
Mhm.
thankfully I've never had to go through it, but I've been close to some people who have, and it's a feeling I don't ever want to experience, to put it out there. But as a, kid, seeing your parents go through that is definitely quite an experience, and probably a humbling one at that.
Mhm.
So you transitioned into raising dairy replacements.
Mhm. Yep.
And then at what point did you kind of decide, like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to farm, when I get older, I want to farm after school. How
Mhm.
did that journey go for you?
So it was when I was in high school, my plan was I'm going to go to college. I love the farm. I love being part of it, but I didn't know where my place was in it and how to make a career of it. So I started college with a horticulture degree at Del Val because I also was very interested in all things flowers. So I thought, well, maybe I would do that, but also still, help out at the farm some. So my first year at college, I was a hort degree. And then I was in college and I just realized I have to farm. Like that is my calling. So I switched majors and got an ag ed degree. I wanted something that had kind of a broad, I didn't ever actually plan to teach, but I wanted my major to kind of be a little more open ended.
Yeah.
And so with ag ed, I was an animal science, focus through that. So I still got to take all of the classes that you do with animal science, which was very helpful. So I'd say in college, even before I started dating my husband, I just knew like I need to farm. So I want my major to align with that.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to step back for a second. So, what early on in your years is what inspired you to even start college as a horticulture major? Did you always have a garden? Like, was it something that you were interested? How did that happen by chance?
No, none of this is by chance. I am very much God had a hand in this whole story because it couldn't have all played out this way by chance. So when I was little, my grandmother Beth, my mom's mom, and they also had a dairy farm. She had a greenhouse and was growing her own flowers and would sell them to neighbors and had a garden. When I got into high school, I had my own garden. I called it my secret garden and it was mine. Like I took did everything with it. And then I started selling. We grew sunflowers and zinnias and I actually sold them at a roadside stand my dad made me. So I've just always loved playing with flowers. And in high school, I took the horticulture classes with the ag program and I just loved it. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go into horticulture. So that's why I started in horticulture before I shifted into ag ed because it was like not my other passion because it all to me is farming. It
Yeah,
was, yeah, other
I
than
get that.
dairy.
Definitely. And there is something peaceful about going out and like sitting in your garden or like weeding
Oh,
and cutting
the
flowers.
weed even. Yeah, people are
Yeah.
like, oh, the weeding. I'm like, I love weeding. I love to be out there weeding.
It's
I
just
mean,
you time where it's quiet and it's
yeah.
peaceful. And if you've
And you
got
feel
aggressions, you just
accomplished.
take them out.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And I do. I miss having a garden because I have gardened for years and it's been a couple years now. We get so busy with the food truck in the summer that I get very stressed out that it does get
Yeah,
weedy.
and if it's stressor, then it's not
Yeah.
serving the point. And
Yes. So
sometimes you have to make those calls.
I stick to my flower boxes now, which get out of hand every once in a while, but they're a little bit easier to bring back into control rather than a full vegetable garden. So my mom
Mhm.
has been starting seeds like crazy, which I think she's crazy because she gets just as busy as I do with the food truck in the summer, but to each their own, let her
Yeah,
go, let her do the
yeah,
things. So, but there's definitely nothing like seeing the beautiful flowers and eating any vegetables that you might grow in your garden and that feeling of
absolutely.
accomplishment and yeah, just the sheer beauty and good smells of it. So,
Hmm.
so you met your now husband in college, and I guess take the story from there.
Okay, so my second year of well, I met him when I was a freshman, but we started dating when I was a sophomore. And it was a very funny, my brother was an AGR brother, and that's how I met Chris. He was his one of his little brothers because I went to the same school as my brother. And so we just hung out as friends for a while and then started kind of talking more and was like, well, where are you from? And he said, Middletown. There's a Middletown, Maryland. And I was like, yeah, I'm aware because we live like our towns are side by side. So, and he already knew because he knew my brother. But I feel like from then on, it was just like we knew. And
Wow.
we're just, yeah, I mean, we started dating and pretty much right away, I just knew like this is who we're meant to be with. And just too much in common. His family also had had a dairy. His grandfather sold it when he was really young, but they still had the farm. They crop farmed it. He was a dairy major in college, which was also helpful. I had already switched majors, but I'm like, well, that works out that I didn't also choose dairy because then we kind of have more covered. And yeah, so we just fit because kind of all
Awesome.
of our passion for farming and family and for our faith, it all lined up to kind of know like that it was going
You
to
were put
work.
there for a reason, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny that you grew up in towns so close to each other. And with agriculture being such a small world these days, you didn't know each other
We didn't
prior
know
to.
each other. Yeah,
That's
it is.
funny.
It's actually really wild that we didn't, because we
Very
even
wild.
like figure out when we were at the same kind of ag things at the same time and just didn't know to know each other.
You weren't meant to know each other yet.
Not yet. Nope. Mhm.
It is funny how that works out. So
Yeah.
you both made it through college, and then where did you go from there?
So after college, he was 2 years ahead of me. So he came back and started working full time as the herd manager at literally the farm that's connected to our farm. They had a dairy at that point. So he was doing that. And then when I got out of college, I moved here and we lived like a mile from where we are now. So he's only lived here in our little square. He was doing herd manager. I was herd manager at mom and dad's with mom for the dairy because we had like 400 heifers at that point. So I was full time at my family's farm and I also helped with the crop farm part of it. So we were both working at different farms, and when we got married, Chris's grandfather passed operations of our farm on to him and I. So we were also managing this farm. And at that point, we were just crop farming it. And we had a couple heifers we raised for other people, but that's why we had to work We were at two different farms and had this one for
The farming.
the first 2 years. Yeah, of
Okay.
us being married.
Then how did things change after that?
So we moved on to this farm. We now live on the farm where we're operating, and I think our son was about 6 months old, our oldest, and Chris just came to me and he actually said, "I'm ready." And I was like, "What are you ready for?" He
What are we
said,
doing? Hang on.
yeah, he said, "I'm ready to start our dairy." And it's really crazy because I've always been the crazy one. He's like the sensible one, and it was just really, and people when we first got married were always like, "Oh, are you going to start a dairy because you're a dairy major? Are you going to start a dairy on your farm?" And we were always like, "No, I don't think so. I don't think it's in the cards." And it just kind of like happened. And he came to me and he's like, I think we're gonna do it." And I was like, "Okay," because I'm the crazy one. I was like, "Let's
Let's
do it."
go. If
Yeah, I
you're
was like,
ready, if
"No." And it just came from this, like, we wanted our own thing, to not forever work. Not, we loved the farms we were working on, but it was like, if we want to just farm this farm, something else has to happen. And we had all this background and this knowledge. And so he was just like, "Let's see if we can make it happen." So we started the planning, which was like 6 months of like,
Mhm.
what do we want? How would we even go about? Then we started like the loan process and all that, which, so from start of the process to when we actually had the dairy start was 2 years. It took 2 years of us going through that and it was the whole like, go to one lender, get denied, and be like, "Okay, do we quit?" Go to another lender. We actually ended up with FSA and they helped us get our initial loans. And still, it's like all the things, the permits, the town approval. It was a very great learning experience.
What year was it that you guys finally succeeded in getting milking?
We started milking January of 2013.
Okay.
I
So
was
yeah,
pregnant with
that
our
was
second
coming.
son.
That was coming out of a pretty
We started in a good patch. So like
okay.
the first 18 months of milk price were really good.
Good.
And then it dropped in half. That was when
Yeah.
it literally cut in half. So it was like, we're fine to
Fine. Typical dairy farming, like, nope, no, it's not. Nope, nope, hard pass. Like, let's not. Yes.
there were so many nights I would because I do night check. My husband milks morning and so I'll do night check and be up late so that he can wake up early. And there were so many nights pushing up feed and in the dark where the song, oh, I'm gonna think of it later, but it's like the "We Can Do This" kind of song would just
Yes.
play in my head. And I'm just like, I've just got to keep believing that this was not the biggest mistake ever. And
Yes.
it's hard because we had a lot of people tell us, "You're crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody starts a dairy farm nowadays. Why would
No.
you want a dairy farm? There's no money in that." Because nobody does. You inherit, you take over. You don't start a dairy farm. And we
Yes.
were like, "Well, we're gonna." And the amount of people, we also had wonderful people supporting us and saying, "Follow your dream if that's your dream." But we had a lot of people just flat out be like, "That's stupid."
Yeah. And that comes from, my parents are first generation dairy farmers. And I remember getting into dairying when I was a kid. I was nine, probably 9, 8, 9 years old. And I remember the struggles. And even back, in the late 90s, that was still like unheard of. Like, you're going to start your own dairy farm? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
why, how, what are you doing?
Mhm.
Like, are you crazy? And, I remember
Maybe.
seeing the struggles that my parents went through to make things work and just dealing with that, like you said, up and down and up and
Yeah.
down. And the bills are due and those
Yeah.
loans are due from starting up, and you don't have a choice. Like, you have to
Right.
figure it out. And
Yeah.
it's
And
definitely,
I think seeing the struggles helps because we knew there would be struggles. So
Mhm.
when it dropped, it wasn't like we weren't even surprised. We knew it
Yeah.
would eventually drop. So I think we were prepared for it. It didn't make it not hard, but I think because we both had dairy background, and especially myself with my parents still till I was 14, the up and down of milk price, and then even after that, the up and down of commodity because they were crop farming. it wasn't a surprise. So mentally, I knew how to, and I watched them deal with it. And it also helped me my entire life. My parents have talked about farming, and my mom would say from when we were little, "Oh, the goal here isn't to make money," which is such a silly thing for a business owner to say. But she would say the goal here is to make enough money that we can pay the bills so we can farm another year. And it's all about how you're looking at it. So
Hmm.
she was like, to me, we're winning, we're succeeding just because we have the opportunity to keep living this lifestyle we love on this land that we love. And so when you go in with that as like in your background, it's like the whole point is that you get to have the joy of doing it, something you believe in.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, it's one of those things. And, you know, we've been dairying for 30-ish years now, and just seeing the ebbs and the flows of it. But it's one of those things like, we're just going to get through this year. Okay. We made it through that year. Now we're going to get through this year. Like, we're going to do it. And you just kind of keep chugging along, and, you know, you hope obviously for a good year, but through the bad years, you put your head down, you get through it, and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you wait for the good years to come, which unfortunately for an industry, it's kind of sad that that's the way that the industry is.
It is sad.
But it's one of those things, and it's just kind of like born into you as a dairy farmer. Like, that's just how it is. And it sucks, and you move on, and you remember that you're also getting that lifestyle, and you're getting that way of life of, you know, raising your family on the farm and doing the farm type things. I mean, how many other jobs are just like, yep, it's Christmas, like we have to get up and go milk the cows or go feed the cows and do this. And one
Yeah,
of my
I
favorite
love
memories
it.
as a kid, you get up, my mom would let me open my stocking, and that was it. And then we had to go to the barn and milk the cows and do chores.
Childhood.
Yes. And so then you're like itching though, because you're like, oh my gosh, what did Santa leave me under the tree? Like, oh my gosh.
I
And you
think it
get
was more special that way.
Yes, it was. And it also made you appreciate your stocking more, because
Uh-huh.
you got to open that, and then you got to stew on like what you got in that for a little
Yeah.
while.
Yes.
And then you finally got to the other stuff. But as a kid, that's like one of my core memories, is just that,
Yeah.
like, that gap. And we'd always get something special for breakfast in the barn on Christmas morning.
Oh,
Like, it was just one of
yeah.
those things. So,
I agree. My favorite thing from now that my boys are older, we had when they were little, it was like you can open your stocking, but you can't open the rest till daddy gets in from the barn. So now that they're older, our Christmas Eve tradition is my husband plays, he's a musician, so he plays for our church and he plays at all of the services, and there's three. Our tradition is that my sons and myself, we milk, and that way Chris can have the whole evening off to go play the Christmas Eve service. And I really love, and then when we get done, we go into the one that is after. But I love that that's our tradition, that, we're doing the chores so that daddy can have the night off to go to church. Cause it makes me very happy.
yeah. What instrument does he play?
Mainly piano and keyboard, but
Okay.
then he also does saxophone and harmonica.
Wow, talented.
Yeah, he's just
That's something that he picked up later in life, or is that something that he did right from when he was?
piano was throughout, and then he did saxophone just for like 2 years in middle
Mm.
school, and then he's just teaching himself harmonica. But it's kind of like I think I'm not musically inclined, but I think
Neither
like
am I.
knowing piano and how to read music, you can kind of teach yourself over time other instruments somewhat. I don't know.
I'm not musically inclined either,
It's
so
just his
that
one hobby besides farming. And thank goodness he has one hobby besides farming.
it is good to make sure that you have a hobby outside farming, because you have to, like, I feel like you do need that little bit of like, it's not like a relief, but it's just that some days you just need to like
You
completely
need to
separate
leave the farm.
yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
And be connected to other people, you know,
Yes.
in some
And the
other
most
way.
the most musically inclined that I am, or the most musically connected that I am, is that my husband is like Luke Combs' doppelganger. So
That's my musical connection.
There
However,
you
do not
go.
ask him to sing because he does not sound like Luke Combs when he sings. That's as
Well,
close to being musically talented as our family is, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah, that's okay. That's
So,
okay.
so those first couple years were really tough for, after the first 18 months of great prices and then you had that dip.
Uh-huh. Yes.
What was the other side like? How did you make it through, with that? You had a young family at that point.
We had a very young family, and I won't lie, it was really hard. I mean, I struggled with anxiety. Um, Even though we were doing what we loved and I had faith it was going to work out, the anxiety was real. The how are we going to make this work? We were making it and it was okay, but it was very tight. So we started brainstorming ways to bring in more income. We always had in the back of our minds, I have this ag ed major I can do stuff with. So we looked at different jobs I could get off the farm. But, at that point, our sons, neither of them were in public school yet. So we're thinking, well, then you're paying for childcare if I have
Mhm.
to leave all day because they were with me. And also, I it's just my husband and I for our dairy. His mom helps some, but actual employees, it's just the two of us. So any job I could have got off the farm wasn't fitting into the schedule for the farm. It took me away too much and then the farm wouldn't have worked,
Mhm.
because I wouldn't have ever been back for milking and feeding calves and I do the breeding program. So just nothing was really working. And then my husband was like, why don't you see if you can make money off of flowers? Because I've always done flowers. I've just never had done them for a profit. And I was
Mhm.
like, you think? And at that time, there were no flower farmers in our area. Like nobody was doing it. There was already like a lot of great successful creameries and different value added through the dairy. So we were like, we couldn't really go that route because it's
Mhm.
already being done. So that is what started the flower side of the business.
Another great idea by your husband.
I know, right? Yeah. So that was a lot of figuring it out because we had to make sure that it was a low input because we couldn't, afford to take out more loans to start something else up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started it and just we grew it really slowly to make sure anything that was coming in was profit. And it was the perfect fit. And that's where, when I say like the whole story, there was a hand in it from God because I ended up going back full circle and like doing horticulture as well. So it was like from the beginning, it was all meant to be and it just had to play out. But yeah, I started just selling at one farmer's market and then grew more flowers, moved and have like a whole third of an acre of flowers now. And it's grown and changed every year as it needs to. And the reason it really works is it can fit around my schedule because
Mhm.
I can completely control and pick what I want to do with it. And I think that's why it was ultimately the perfect fit for us to do here.
Now you're selling like bouquets, or are you selling them by the piece where people can make their own bouquets? How does that work?
So mainly I sell them wrapped bouquets. So when I
Mhm.
go to market, I just have craft paper and I'll make up the pre-made bouquets so that it's like a set price. Here's the bouquet. It's different every week. That was the easiest way for me to figure out to do it so that on the spot, we're not always like figuring out each stem. I was
Yeah.
like, that just seemed like too much for me. It works. Some people do it that way, but we just do like, here's your set bouquet. It's a set price. We also have a little roadside stand at the end of at the road front where it's self-serve. Same thing, just selling bouquets. Once I have sunflowers, then I'll also just do like sunflower bundles
Yep.
is like the only other option. So that's how I sell them at market and the roadside stand. And I also do subscriptions where, people that can't make the markets, sign up for the subscription and they also just pick them up from the roadside stand once a week. The only other way I sell the flowers is I do cut your own events.
Very cool.
That was actually so about 3 years in, people started asking if they could come see where I grew the flowers. And because I already had a customer base through the markets, I had like the ones I knew might come out. So I started doing cutting events. I call them sip and picks, where I partner with local either wineries or distilleries. I invite them to come out to sell their beverages. And then we get local live bands to come play, and people sit and they like eat picnics, listen to the music, maybe drink some wine, and then they pick their bouquets. So that's been really fun. And I tell people that I trick the public because they think they're coming to see flowers. And then once they get here, there's no way they leave without being educated about dairy farming. So it's really awesome because, like, you drive in, we're a dairy farm. You have to drive past all things dairy to get to the flower hill. They're just like, oh, these cows, they're so cute and blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right, isn't it great? And then they're always, tell me about the dairy cows, like, and every time I get to educate people on dairy farming, and it's so great.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah. And then we started doing 3 years ago classes. People asked if I do classes. So I now teach flower arranging classes.
And there's the education part of your ag education. Look at you.
Right. I know. I really do use the whole thing. Yeah, I even now I do. So I did like adult classes. We do tea parties with a flower arranging class. Like pretty much just think what would be fun. And then we go for it. And then last year I started teaching, I call it Kids Farm Hour. So with those, it actually last year it was mainly homeschool parents bringing their kids because it was when public school was already in. But that was really amazing. So I had a flower one, I had a crop farm focused one, and then a dairy farm focused one. And that was just so rewarding to have kids come out and be able to teach them about farming. And I'm definitely doing that again this year.
Awesome. That definitely came full circle for you. And that's
Yeah.
amazing how literally every single little piece just circled.
It's really crazy.
It is funny how those things work out, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. When you're in it, you're like, I don't know what's happening. You just have to trust that the story's going to work out.
Percent. And how do the boys fit into this operation with you guys?
Yeah. So they help out. From the start, it wasn't a choice. We're all part of this. We're all in it. So they've helped out with chores as soon as they could do anything. And it changes as they get older. Our older son, he's a freshman and he's very into soccer and track and field. So it's harder. He can only help us a little bit right now because he's got practices and stuff, but I know that he'll help more in the summer. Um, and he loves and appreciates the farm, but it's not his passion. And that is 1,000% okay. Like we talked to him about like, listen, we just want you to know how to do all of these things and to appreciate hard work. You don't need to grow up and be a farmer if that's not what you feel called to do. But you're going to like that you know how to drive a skid loader and you know how to fork a calf pen, like do real things and accomplish it, or they help build a barn. All of that, no matter what you do in life, is going to serve you later. And he agrees and he doesn't fight it. He appreciates the work. He's just like, this isn't what I think I want to do.
Not what drives his passion. Yeah.
No. But our 11-year-old, he like lives and dies for the farm. So he's the one that's
how my 7-year-old is.
He's always there. Dad, why this? Dad, as soon as what's the tractor magazine that everybody gets? The Fast Line. The new Fast Line comes in. He's reading it like the Bible. And he's like, it's the same thing that was in it last time, buddy. No, it's not. Dad, look at this skid loader. And I'm just, he is the one that cannot wait to have his turn. So it's fun. And it's great that they're different and that, they can give each other space to be different.
Definitely. It's important to encourage them to follow what passions and dreams that they have individually, because forcing them into a mold is not.
It'll never work. I'm three of three. My oldest sister never was into the farm, and she actually didn't even really love it when we were little. So she's a minister, and then the middle is my brother, who took over and is taking over my parents' operation, and then myself. So they had 2 farmers and a preacher, and that's from the start, like what it was going to be.
Yeah.
Just very obvious.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm thankful that we have so much diversity here on our farm, because with my kids, they all do have those different things that they like to do. And my little guy, he's definitely going to be an equipment guy. Whether he turns into a cow guy is yet to be seen, but the
Yeah.
equipment is his thing. A tractor will be on a different piece of equipment. Mom, why is that tractor on that? And I'll be like, I don't know, buddy. Well, it's not supposed to be on that. Like something must be wrong. And I was like, I don't know. Ask your dad. I have no clue.
All the time. You asking me, ask dad. I mean, I do some crop stuff, but still, I'm just like, why do you ask me? Just ask dad.
Ask the one who actually knows the answer.
If you want to know why a calf is sick and what I treated her with, I can tell you that. But he never asks those questions. So the younger son, he's all things cropping. So I'm like, you might have to like buy more land and extend this crop operation because I'm not sure he actually wants to dairy. We'll see. I think he tolerates the cows because he knows right now that's what keeps this farm going.
That's what's eating the crops. We got to take care of them so they can eat the crops. So we grow the crops. Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. So I love to get into some fun rapid fire questions just to get to know you a little bit better. Are you a coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. All day, every day. I do like a cup of tea at night as long as it's decaf. Every once in a while, you got to have that cup of tea. Cats or dogs? Oh, really thinking.
Both, but not in my house.
Outside. We have dogs in the house. The cats are all barn cats outside, and that's fine with me. My husband is very anti-litter box, which I'm kind of okay being anti-litter box and keeping the cats outside. At least the dogs go to the bathroom outside. So what is, so besides the farm for you, what is your go-to hobby?
Okay, so flowers don't count.
She's like, that was my out. Hang on.
Antiquing with my mom.
There you go. That's a different one. You don't hear that very often. Excellent. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Extrovert.
Sorry. Got to find good ones on this list here. All right. Pizza or burgers?
Pizza.
Pizza. With what toppings?
I like all the toppings. I'll eat any kind of pizza.
If it's in pizza form, it's good.
Yeah.
If you could time travel, would you go to the past or the future? Where would you go?
Well, it's hard. That's hard. And really, you don't want to when you really think about it. But I don't know.
There's good things and there's bad things. Yeah. But you don't know what you're getting if you go in the future. That's the problem.
Right. Yeah.
I'm definitely I would go past person. Birds fascinate me. But then I'm like, what would my children look like all grown up and stuff like that? But then I'm like, I don't know if I want to know that right off.
Right. I think that's why it's like, if you really start thinking about it too much, it's like, well, I couldn't have been a business owner in the past. So would I really have liked that? I don't know. Aspects of it, yes, and other aspects, no.
Yeah, I can see that. It definitely depends on my mood as to which way I'd want to go. Sometimes I like my modern conveniences also. Let's see. What's your favorite flower?
The zinnia.
Okay, that's a good one. Those are beautiful, always. And besides your Christmas tradition, I'm going to make it tricky for you. Besides your Christmas tradition with the boys on Christmas Eve milking cows, what is your favorite other holiday tradition? It could be current or it could be something that you remember as a kid.
As a kid, it was that we would on any holiday go to my grandparent Shank's farm, and they had the wood stove like in their kitchen, and it was so hot in there, and the table would be the whole length of the kitchen, many tables put together, and the kids would all sit on this one side on the bench, and like all the cousins, and then the youngest would have to start the prayer, and we just said God is great, and it was always the youngest of the family would have to start it. And it was just that it was always the same cozy feeling.
Yeah, I definitely loved going to my grandparents for holidays when I was a kid too, and it was just that thing you look forward to. And my cousin and I that I'm very close with, we would always sneak the black olives off the table before the meal, and every once in a while there wouldn't be any black olives for the meal because we'd get carried away.
That's funny.
Grandma was always prepared and she always had more, so she'd always fill the bowl again. But we'd sneak them like we were never going to get caught and no one was ever going to know it was us.
Of course.
They'll never know. Yeah, okay. They knew exactly what was going on. What is your favorite chore on the farm? Sorry, I'm coming in with the stumpers today.
That is like one chore, I guess, on the dairy side of it. For the dairy side, I do love when new calves are born, because it's just like that circle of life. we were heifer raising, I didn't have that. So it's nice when you go back to being full circle dairy to have like, I bred the cow and then I get to wait and then see the calf be born. So probably when taking care of the new babies. For flower farming, anytime there's welcoming others onto the farm. I love sharing our farm with the public.
Awesome. Now, I'm sure you don't get to travel much. Have you gotten to travel at all?
I do with my parents. Chris stays home. So when we vacation, when the boys get to vacation, it's myself with my family. We went to Florida this winter and we do Deep Creek Lake every summer.
Good memories for the kids.
Yeah.
What kind of things do they like to do at the lake?
Boating. My parents have a boat, so we ride around and they tube and yeah, a lot of boating. They'll swim in the lake and paddleboard. Yeah.
Now, if you had someone to take care of the farm for you and your husband to go somewhere's like dream vacation, where would you go?
We want to do like Tennessee, but not just Nashville, like experience a lot of Tennessee. That's always our someday plan.
When the boys get old enough to hold down the fort while you guys go.
Yeah. I jokingly was like, okay, you boys have like 5 years and we're out.
Let's go. Mom and dad have to go travel.
Yeah.
That's great. And I now like to give you, as if I didn't make you think enough, now I'm going to give you a deeper thought question that was left by a previous guest. And your question is, when you're having a tough day, what is something you do to change your mood and mentality to be more positive?
I mean, I really will pray on it. I will like continually pray, like, God, help change my heart, help me to figure out, and that thought that the only thing we can really control is how we react to things. So it's like, if I'm having a bad day, maybe I need to put on some music and dance around like a silly lady. Maybe I need to go pull some weeds like crazy or
take your aggressions out.
Talk. Usually after the prayer, anything that gets like just start moving, physically moving is going to help change my attitude.
Awesome. And what quote do you have for us today that is something that drives you to be your best and really knock it out of the park?
The quote that has always been my favorite, and I actually use it for the flower business in a lot of advertising, is where you tend a rose, a thistle cannot grow, from The Secret Garden. And it's that in the book, it's talking about like mental health, and that if you're only thinking the negative thoughts, there's no room for the positive. But if you start only trying to think positive thoughts, it's going to choke out the negative. So just like gardening, if you're pulling out all these weeds and getting rid of all that, it's going to let the flowers grow and survive. And negativity has to be removed, and you have to focus on the positive. So that's where you tend a rose, a thistle cannot grow.
Beautiful. I love it. And it fits in with your theme so nicely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. Where can people find you if they want to follow along on your adventure or even support your business if they're in Maryland?
Okay. I am on Instagram and Facebook, and it's Valley Homemade and Homegrown. That's how you'd find me for both.
Awesome. And I will be sure to tag that in the comments. Jamie, thank you so much tag that in the comments. Tag that in the show notes. There we go. Need to get my brain straight this morning. That's what I get for recording on a Monday morning, right? But
sorry.
Thank you. No, you're good. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I know that you're a busy lady, and I know you're working on probably getting your flowers starting for the year at this point. And we wish you... Yes, perfect. We wish you continued success in your business, and I look forward to seeing more of the flowers as I follow along with you this summer. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for listening. If you loved this episode, be sure to tag, share with a friend, leave us a review or a comment, and we will talk to you next week. Thank you, everybody.